Hey Luke, it's your dad again. It's been several months since I've made a video for you, and a couple things have happened in the meantime that have given me the idea for the subject of this video. The first thing that happened was a couple months ago. Um, your uncle Jeremy was not able to take his son Michael to the father-son dance. And so I got to take him. We sort of made it the uncle nephew dance. And again, Michael is your cousin. You wouldn't have known him because he wasn't born whenever I last saw you. But he's going to elementary school now, Benjamin Franklin, and that was the same school that I went to here in Indiana. And so being back in the school brought back a lot of memories just walking down the hall. A lot of memories of my childhood came rushing through. And then just a couple weeks ago, my a cappella instructor had a reunion where anybody who had been in his a cappella classes in high school could come and put on a singing performance for those in the community. And so I got to rewalk the halls of my high school, which again brought back a lot of memories of my childhood. And so the subject that I wanted to talk about today was actually the earliest memories that I have of my childhood, even before I was in school. And I was trying to think of the earliest memories that I still have, and it is interesting. Maybe even now at your age, you don't remember a lot of your life before kindergarten. Well, when you get to my age, which is now 36, I'm going to be 37 this year, you really have a hard time remembering anything before kindergarten. But I sat down and I tried to think of every single memory that for some reason or another I still have in my mind from before kindergarten. And here's what I came up with that I wanted to share with you. Um, for as long as I can remember, I would have this strange memory flash in my mind about this girl who used to go to my church. Her name was Kim Boast. And I remember lying on the couch as though I was a little baby, unable to do anything myself, basically just at the mercy of whoever could pick me up and hold me. And I remember her coming into the living room at my mom's house, which would be your Nana and Pa's house, and her just coming into the living room and stooping down and looking into my eyes and giving a big smile. And I couldn't understand why I had this memory or this image, because as far as I knew, this Kim Boast, who had gone to my church, had never come to our house, and I never remember her coming to our house. So why do I have this strange memory of me lying on the couch as seemingly a little helpless baby, and her coming in and looking at me with a big smile on her face? Well, it wasn't until many years later, after having thought of this over and over again and never questioning it, but then finally asking my mom, "Hey, did Kim Boast ever come to our house for any reason?" And then she told me that Kim was actually our babysitter whenever we were little kids. So as best as I can tell, for whatever reason, I have one memory. I may have been maybe over 1 year old. I may have been a little under 1 year old. But it has to be the earliest flash memory in my mind. I have to, because I don't know how I could have just made up this memory, and then it just so happened that, yeah, she did babysit and come to our house whenever we were real young. But other than that, I have no memories of her ever being our babysitter or ever being at our house. So I'm not sure why that memory is in my mind, but I find it interesting that it stuck. Another memory that I have was before I ever started elementary school. I remember that I was at home, and for whatever reason, it was probably that I had been loud and obnoxious. My mom told me that I was not allowed to leave my bedroom. I had to stay in my room, and I wasn't allowed to come out. And so I remember being in my bedroom, and I had to poop. And I thought, oh no, I can't leave my bedroom. I can't ask mom or tell her about it because I'll get in trouble. So, for whatever reason, I thought that it would be a good idea to run around in circles in my room, thinking that that would help me not poop my pants. And I remember as I was doing circles, I would run through the mirror and I would see myself in the mirror as I would run by each and every time. And each time I ran by, I was smiling, looking into the mirror. But then the time came whenever I had run too much and I had actually caused myself to poop my pants. So then I remember, finally saying, Mom, hey, can I go out and go to the bathroom? And I know I tried to go into the bathroom and fix it myself, but I don't remember what happened from there. But I remember running around in the room and looking at myself in the mirror thinking, I can't poop my pants and somehow this is going to help. It wasn't until many years later that I realized that was actually going to make me poop my pants more than if I had just lied there and tried to hold it in. Some other interesting memories that I have, I remember it was my brother, your Uncle Greg, who taught me how to ride a bicycle, um, specifically a two-wheel bicycle. And for the longest time at Nana's, we had a very small two-wheel bicycle. And I remember being out in the garage and my brother showing me how to do it. And I was all confident that I was going to finally be able to ride the bicycle without training wheels for the first time. And I remember that Mom and Dad were outside on the back patio. We didn't have the back covered porch at the time. And Tracy was born, but I believe she was so little she may not have even been talking. Definitely 2 or younger, maybe younger than 2. And I remember yelling, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, look at me, because I was riding the bicycle for just a few feet by myself. But I remember as soon as I believe it was my dad looked, as he was looking, I had fallen over. And I thought, oh, man, I don't think my dad actually saw me riding the bicycle by myself, because as soon as he saw me, I fell over. So that was a big moment, learning to ride my bike. I can understand why that memory has stuck with me. Another memory that I know why it sticks with me is because there was one thing, as far as I can remember, one occurrence growing up in Nana and Pa's house that I cannot explain. And I don't think it was my over imagination as a child, because I remember at the time, my mom, your Nana, was also in shock as to what happened. And I know she heard the noise with me. But basically, there was one night whenever I was getting a bath, and I don't know if Tracy was born, but I know Dad and Greg were not in the house. And I was so little that I didn't dry myself off with the towel. So Nana was drying me off with the towel after I had gotten out of the bathtub. And I remember the whole house was dark. I think the only lights that were on in the house was the bathroom light. But the bathroom door was open, and a thudding sound occurred on the steps that lead to the basement. It wasn't just one thudding sound, though. It was a series of thudding sounds. And from what I remember, again, I was real little. I don't know if I confused it, but at the time I thought my mom was in agreement with me that it was pretty clear as to what we heard. It sounded like something like footsteps had walked up the stairs, starting from the bottom, walking gradually at the same pace until it reached the top, and then there was nothing. There was silence. And I was afraid to go look, and I don't even remember my mom going to look, because I remember her eyes getting big, because we were talking at the time whenever the sound began, but then as it was happening, we both stopped talking and we listened to it. And again, it didn't sound like something going down the step, because I remember sometime after I went over to the steps to see, well, maybe there was something at the top of the stairs that had fallen down. But even that wouldn't have made the steady thumping and consistent thumping that we heard in a row. And again, as I said, it sounded like it had come up the stairs, but obviously there was nothing there. There was no one else in the house. To this day, I have no clue what it could have been. And then a couple other memories. preschool, before I went into kindergarten at Benjamin Franklin in Indiana, I remember my mom signed me up for a safety camp. And I remember at the end of the safety camp, I think it lasted a week long, we got to ride these vehicles, which I believe were controlled by pedals. I was probably riding like a three-wheeled pedal bike. We got to ride around this little town that was built by the people who had run it. I'm sure the buildings and everything were made out of cardboard or stuff like that, but I remember getting to ride around the town for that, and I remember that they even had a graduation ceremony, but I don't remember any of the rest of that week. But riding around the town on my little bike and being in the graduation ceremony, I remember was real fun. I believe that occurred before toddler tactics. And then preschool, which was the year before kindergarten, we would actually refer to it as toddler tactics. I have a couple memories from there where this is something that you probably don't even know what it is, but in my day when we were kids, we used to get chicken pox. And there was no way to prevent getting chicken pox. I know that today they have a shot, so you get your shot when you're young and you never get the chicken pox, but when I was a kid, that shot had not yet been invented, so everybody got the chicken pox. And you wanted to get it whenever you were young, because whenever you were young, you were able to fight it better than when you get older. And I got it when I was in toddler tactics. So I think I missed a day or so of toddler tactics, but I remember showing up after missing a day and being the kid with the chicken pox. And I even remember the teacher, she was going around the room and was having kids introduce themselves and see if they could identify who the other kids were, because I think every day we tried to introduce ourselves and you tried to remember who the kids were from the previous day. And I remember the teacher pointing at me and saying, who's that kid over there with the chicken pox? And then a couple other memories. I remember they made chocolate milkshakes one day. And I remember we did the hand print where you put your hand on clay while it was wet, and then whenever it dried, you got to keep your hand print. So those were a few memories that I had of preschool, which again was called toddler tactics. And then the last memory that I have, which is one of the more precious memories, before kindergarten, I remember my 4th birthday party. And I remember there used to be a building outside the Indiana Mall that was a mini golf course inside, and it also had cabinets, video game arcade cabinets inside. And that was back in the time when arcades had basically just come into existence, not even, a decade. And so they were real early games that you probably wouldn't be familiar with. But I remember the very first video game that I saw and that is etched in my memory was Popeye. You can actually play it for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, or you can emulate it on the MAME emulator, but it's just called Popeye. And I remember looking at that game and wanting to play it, and I think I even remember asking my mom for a quarter if I could play it. But by the time I had seen the game, I think we were either leaving or somehow my mom didn't have money to give me, so I wasn't able to play it. But I remember being in that party, probably a little bit of the mini golf. I know we did mini golf, but I don't remember much of the mini golf. I just remember being introduced to Popeye, and that was basically my introduction to video games, which I would end up growing up to love. To this day, I still play them all the time, and I especially love playing the classic games, even the ones that are similar in style and play to Popeye. So that was some of my earliest childhood memories I just wanted to share with you to let you know a little bit more about me. I hope that everything is going good in your life at this time. Again, I miss you. The whole family misses you. Again, I've mentioned them, but you have your Uncle Jeremy and Aunt Tracy. Aunt Tracy's my younger sister. Michael and Lizzie are their 2 kids, your cousins. They miss you. My older brother is your Uncle Greg, and there's Aunt Beth and Lily and Braden. They miss you. And then Nana and Pa. We all miss you and we all love you. And we all hope that we will be reunited with you and that we will get to spend time with you. So take care, God bless, and I'll speak with you again soon.